So I'd like to do a little meditation prior to Jennifer Moses speaking. And the meditation is just, it'll be brief, and the poem is brief to go with. My shell said she likes the king and queen of Poetry Palace because they listen to her. She tells them all the secrets of the ocean. We are blessed once again to have the student rabbi, Jennifer Moses, join us from a distant place. And she will deliver the message today with our Soul Matters theme being deep listening. Welcome, Jennifer.
Thank you, Pat. Good morning, everyone. I'm so happy to be able to join you. I am actually in Anchorage this morning visiting my daughter and son-in-law. And I was in Juneau this week for Rosh HaShanah, the Jewish New Year. This is a very, very sacred time for Jewish people. It's a perfect time to talk about the spiritual practice of deep listening. And I think you know that deep listening crosses many traditions, beliefs, and cultures. It's a practice that helps us connect with the world, with each other, and with the sacred in profound ways. Deep listening goes beyond simply hearing. It's an act of being fully present to the sounds, the silence, and the subtleties that often go unnoticed. It requires us to open not only our ears, but our hearts. One of the most profound calls to listen in the Jewish tradition comes in the form of the Shema. This ancient prayer, which is recited 3 times a day, begins with the words, Shema Yisrael. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. It's a statement of creed and a call from God. The Shema reminds us that listening is a sacred act. It's about being attuned to the divine presence in the ordinary. It's about hearing the voice of life itself. The Unatana Tokef prayer, which translates as, let us speak to the awesomeness of this day, is central to the Jewish high holidays, and it also offers a powerful image of deep listening. This ancient poem, recited on Rosh HaShanah and Yom Kippur, paints a picture of the day of judgment, where God reviews the deeds of humanity. The great shofar is sounded, and a still, small voice is heard. This juxtaposition of the loud, dramatic sound of the shofar, the ram's horn, with the still, small voice, invites us to reflect on the ways we listen. The shofar may capture our attention, but it's in the quiet, in the gentle whisper, that we hear the deepest truths. The Unatana Tokef reminds us that in the sacred moments of life, we must tune our hearts to hear the subtle and often overlooked messages that guide us toward transformation. But deep listening is not just about listening to the divine or to the natural world. It's also about listening to one another. In our fast-paced society, how often do we truly listen to one another? How often do we listen without forming a response in our minds, without interrupting, without judgment? In the noise of our modern world, we often lose the ability to listen deeply. We're flooded with sounds, notifications, conversations, and distractions that make it difficult to truly pay attention. But deep listening asks us to slow down, to pause, and to enter into the stillness where we can hear what is beneath the surface. There's a poem by Mary Oliver that captures this stillness, this listening. Instructions for living a life. Pay attention. Be astonished. Tell about it. Oliver's words remind us that paying attention is the first step toward being astonished by the world, by life, by the sacred. To listen deeply is to pay attention to what is beyond the noise, the whispers of the wind, the rustles of leaves, the laughter of a child, or the unspoken emotions of a friend. This call to listen is also echoed in other traditions. The Buddhist practice of mindfulness teaches us to be present in each moment, to listen deeply to our thoughts, our breath, and the sensations around us. In the Satipatthana Sutta, the Buddha instructs his followers to engage in mindfulness of breathing and mindfulness of the body as the foundational practices. These are also forms of deep listening, not just with the ears, but with the whole self, attuning to the present moment. In the Quaker tradition, the act of deep listening is at the heart of communal worship. Quakers often sit in silence, waiting for the Spirit to speak. This captures the essence of the worship, the idea that God's voice is not always found in the loud or dramatic, but in the quiet and subtle moments. And as Unitarians, you value the inherent worth and dignity of every person. One way to honor that dignity is by deeply listening to the stories, struggles, and joys of those around us. When we listen with compassion, we create space for healing, for connection, and for growth. We open ourselves to the possibility of being transformed by what we hear. The poet Rumi invites us to listen beyond words. He writes, "There is a voice that doesn't use words. Listen." Sometimes the deepest listening happens in the silence between words and the unspoken emotions that fill the spaces between us. I invite you to consider how we can cultivate this practice of deep listening in our own lives. How can we make space for silence in the midst of the noise? How can we listen more deeply to ourselves, to the world around us, and to one another? May we, in listening, be transformed. May this be God's will. Thank you.
To the God of our understanding, the Spirit with whom we commune this morning, we ask that our minds be open, our hearts be welcoming, our arms embracing. We lift up those whose lives are touched by sadness, by illness, by worry, or by loneliness. May they find comfort, hope, and healing strength in this community and in the larger community. We celebrate those whose lives are whole and well. May they share their strength with those in need and find warmth and love in the sharing of their spirit. May it be so. I'm going to, we're early, but party's over. I'm going to extinguish the flame with these words by the Reverend Emily Gage. To deeply listen and to be deeply listened to. May we open our hearts and minds to another world. May we let ourselves be changed by the stories around us. May we deeply listen and be deeply listened to. And may we be held in silence and in love. And so may it always be. Amen. Namaste. So shall we stand and, I'll blow out the candle. Thank you, Kim. And again, those of you online, if you would be so kind as to mute yourselves so we don't get the feedback. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we live. From you I receive, to you I give, together we share, and from this we